Okay, welcome to this session. I hope everybody can hear me. This breakout session is on the transformative agri-food and the section of food science and technology. And we have 9 presenters. I will kindly request that the presenters log in using their names so that we can be able to acknowledge them. There will be a poster presentation session ongoing. The link is going to be presented or to be shared in the chat by the ICT team. The presenters, once we call upon you to present, you will you will introduce yourself. You will tell us your name, your institution and the country where you come from. Before you start your presentation, the presentation is going to be for 10 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes. Thereafter, we will have a question or comments session. Then make sure that your presentation is in slideshow mode. Kindly, when you're presenting, put it in slideshow mode. If you can't be able to share, let us know so that we can assist you from this end. At the end of this session, we are going to have a poll. Kindly participate in that poll. And then after the session, you will exit from the breakout room, but not from the main meeting. Exit from the breakout room, but not from the main meeting. And if the session ends early, you wait in the main meeting. So at this end, I think we start with our first presenter, who is Ferdinand Opondo. Is Ferdinand Opondo in?
Yes, I'm in.
Kindly introduce yourself and share your screen. You have 10 minutes to do your presentation. I will warn you when the time is almost over, when you have about 1 minute. So keep time. Welcome.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
I hope you can all see my screen.
Yes, we can.
My name is Ferdinand Opondo, a master's student at Jaramogi Oginga Odinga University of Science and Technology. I'll be presenting, I'm a Kenyan. I'll be presenting on the nutritional composition and sensory properties of wheat muffins, enriched with Gonimbrasia zambezina caterpillar flour. A brief introduction as to why this study is because in Kenya alone, it is estimated.
Kindly put in presentation mode.
On my side, it is on presentation mode.
Yes, continue.
Let me just.
Just go ahead.
Is it on presentation mode?
Just continue.
Okay. So on the introduction, it is estimated that about 36% of the Kenyan population is food insecure, and around 2.6 million people in Kenya are severely food insecure. And from the latest report that was there on Citizen yesterday, we saw that about 3.1 million people are suffering from food insecurity. And as a result of that, then people are not able to access the nutritious food, and that exposes them to malnutrition and poor health. In terms of certain statistics, we realize that stunting alone in the country stands at 26%, wasting is at 4%, and underweight is at 11%. That is among children. We take also the statistics of Kwale County, where we see that in the entire county, about the 29% of children there are malnourished, either stunted or wasted. In the case of women, between the age of 15 to 49, then we find that they are thin. And that is as a result of food insecurity, because they are not able to access this nutritious food. So as a result, then there's need for interventions to be take place, and some of these interventions may be the ways in which the world is going is by embracing, as a result of civilization and modernization, then many communities had drifted from consumption of insects. So for these nutrition specific interventions to be well adopted, then there is the proposal that the entomophagy is embraced again. We know that entomophagy is the consumption of insects or the use of insects as food. And we realize that insects are very rich in proteins. And some of the order of the insects that we have, one common one is the Lepidoptera, or the order where we have the caterpillars and the moths. And their consumption is a common practice in Central Africa and some other parts of West Africa. Even though these caterpillars are found in East Africa, some parts of East Africa, more so Kenya, in the coastal region, but you realize that if you visit those particular communities or areas where these caterpillars emerge, then they will tell you that they emerge, but they don't utilize them much for food. And these insects, they can either be eaten whole or they can be served in food with the certain visible parts. For the people who have got history of entomophagy, they prefer either eating them whole or in parts. In the statement of the problem, then the main challenge that is facing Kenya, which is in the sub-Saharan region, is protein malnutrition. So to alleviate protein malnutrition, then there is need for alternative protein sources, because steps had been made in alleviating this, but again, the effect of Corona and the pandemic and the disruption of the food system and the accessibility due to the lockdowns, the impact, the negative impact, or it is postulated that the effect might have negated the progress which had been made towards alleviating food protein malnutrition. But with all this challenge of malnutrition being in sub-Saharan Africa and Kenya, which is in the sub-Saharan Africa, we find that there's this particular species of Lepidoptera, or the caterpillars, which is known as the G. zambezina, Gonimbrasia zambezina caterpillar, which is in the coastal region. They emerge in abundance during the rainy seasons, but we realize that they are highly underutilized despite of their high nutritional composition and the high protein content. Actually, from one of the papers, if you read, though they don't give it, it didn't give the exact percentage of protein, but it says that more than 50% caterpillar is protein. So these are underutilized, but again, as I had said in the introduction, if you take the statistics of Kwale alone, then the number which is in the coastal region, the number of the percentage of children who are malnourished is very high. And therefore, and this is the caterpillar, this caterpillar is found in their region. And therefore that tells us that this caterpillar is underutilized. So the study focused was seeking to promote the consumption of this G. zambezina caterpillar among these people who are living in the coastal region and in Kenya as a whole by changing the form of its presentation and then using the flour from this caterpillar in enriching wheat muffins.
Ferdinand, kindly have your slides moving.
So before doing the analysis, then I did some baseline experiment on the raw materials, more so the G. zambezina caterpillar flour, because from the literature, there was no much literature on its nutritional composition, and therefore I thought that it was very important to analyze its nutritional content. So in terms of fat, you can see from the table 1, or in terms of protein content, you can see the CF, that is the caterpillar.
Kindly move your slides. We can't see table 1.
From my side, it has moved.
Stop sharing so that we can share from our end.
Okay. Next, just move to the
Ferdinand,
Yes.
kindly share your slides on our chat.
Pardon?
Share your slides on our
Yes.
chat.
Ferdinand,
Yes.
the document you sent us
Yes.
is up to slide 4. So can you share your slides on the chat?
Slide 4. Let me see. Because I'm finding difficulties in sharing. Let me just see.
Just share from your end. And before you share, you put it on
Yes.
slide board.
Should I share on the chat area or?
You can share on both, but share the screen on your end. But before you share, make sure you are in slide mode so that it will show us the slide mode from this on the presenter view.
Okay. I don't know whether it's and
Okay, continue, Ferdinand. We are on that table. Sorry for the inconvenience and the delay.
are we all able to see table 1?
Yes, we are seeing it. You can continue.
Okay. So as I was saying earlier, there was little literature on the nutritional composition of the caterpillar flower, and that informed my choice to characterize the raw material. That was the caterpillar and the major raw material in wheat muffins, that is the wheat flour. So if you check from table 1, you'll realize that the caterpillar indeed has got very high protein content. That is 59%, and is also rich in fat. The wheat flour, which is a major component in wheat muffins, you can see has got a lower protein content, which is in line with what is in the literature. It's low, and the fat content is low despite a high carbohydrate content. I also analyzed for the in vitro digestibility of the caterpillar, and as you can see, it was a bit lower than what is the digestibility of most animal proteins. It was 69, but ideally the animal proteins, the digestibility ranges between 80 and around 95, 94. I also analyzed for a few mineral contents. That was the potassium, the sodium, the zinc and iron, and we can see the concentrations. I also analyzed for some of the fat soluble vitamins, that is the retinol, vitamin A and vitamin E, and you can see that the caterpillar has got no retinol, but has got certain concentrations of the results on the muffins which were enriched at different substitution levels. We had the control and then substitution of wheat flour with caterpillar flour at 5%, and then substitution of wheat flour with caterpillar flour at 10%, 15, and 20%. So the control where the caterpillar flour was not used at all, we can see that those particular wheat muffins had lower protein contents, fat, carbohydrate, not carbohydrate, protein, fat, fiber, ash, as compared to the ones which were substituted at that particular high substitution level. And if we check at, for example, we look at the protein content, which is of our major concern here, you realize that as the substitution levels were increasing, then the protein content of the wheat muffins were increasing. And therefore, it shows that there was an effect. The addition or the substitution of wheat flour with the caterpillar flour had an effect on the protein content of this caterpillar flour. At 20%, of course, the protein content of the wheat flour were high. But again, there's something here when it comes to the carbohydrate. With the carbohydrate, with the increasing level of the caterpillar flour, then the carbohydrate content was increasing. As we saw in table 1, wheat flour had higher carbohydrate content as compared to Zambezina caterpillar flour, and that alone informs that particular trend that we can observe in the carbohydrate content.
Ferdinand, you have 1 minute. Sorry. You need to summarize. You have 1 minute.
Yes. So with the in vitro digestibility, then we can see the trend on figure 1. There was the control had lower digestibility as compared to the enriched muffins. With the mineral contents, you can see from the table, with each substitution level, there was an increase in the mineral contents. Retinol, we see retinol and vitamin A and vitamin E. Then we can see at the retinol, that is the vitamin A, we see that the difference from the table, from the graph, we see that the difference was not much. It was kind of insignificant because most of the vitamin A was a result of one of the ingredients, that was margarine, which is fortified with vitamin A, because the caterpillar didn't have vitamin A. but with the retinol, we can see the trend in the graphs. And then when it comes to sensory properties, then I will talk about the sensory scores at higher substitution levels. We can look at 20 and 25 in terms of the attributes which were measured. Then you'll realize that at a higher substitution level in terms of color, aroma, taste, and texture, then you realize that they scored least as compared to wheat muffins at lower substitution levels. It means that this caterpillar had effect on the aroma of the muffins and even the color, the taste, and the texture. Some of the references are given here. And then I acknowledge my university, that is JUST, World Bank, which funded this project, INSE Foods, and Egerton, where I did my lab work, and for hosting this conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ferdinand, for that good presentation. Now we welcome any questions or comments. You can kindly raise up your hand or write them on the chat so that we can be able to capture them.
Adrian, could you kindly move to slide 1 so that I can get something from the
slide?
Slide 1.
This one?
The first one.
This one?
No, the first one.
On your side now, because he cannot.
The beginning one.
The title or the
title?
Oh, yes.
You aren't there.
From my side, I'm there.
On my side, you are still on the table.
No, from my side, I'm already on the first slide. Has it moved?
It hasn't, but there's no problem.
Because from my side, it shows
Now I've gotten it.
yes, yes. No, it's not.
I'm okay.
No, I think the one you are sharing is a different slide. There's a different slide. The one you are sharing, I think I might have shared the wrong one then. What's happening?
Kindly you can answer the question, because if you can't get the slide, if you can remember what you wanted to ask or comment on.
Okay, I had noticed that as in what you are sharing, and the first time is different from what he was explaining.
Yes, that is why I'm saying the slide which has been shared there. I'm sorry, I might have shared the wrong one, but I think the one I've used in presenting and what I sent on the chat section is the correct slide.
Ferdinand, that is what we have downloaded, what you sent in the chat. So
let me see this again.
is there any other person who has a question or a comment to make as we sort that one out? Yes, there's somebody with a question. Let them ask.
I have a question. My name is Professor Mbula from Egerton University. I have a question touching on the digestibility of this flour, where you have used caterpillar flour to enhance the protein level in the muffins. Now, if the digestibility is very low, as you have said and you have seen in your results,
And to get
how useful will those muffins be to the consumer? Because anything that is not digested is assumed to pass out of the body. So I'm asking, is there anything that can be done to improve the digestibility of the caterpillar flour to make it more useful? Have you had my question, Ferdinand?
Yes, she's not audible enough.
Let me try again. I'm asking this. Can you hear me, Ferdinand?
Yes, I'm hearing you, but from afar. Maybe you move closer.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, I'm asking about the stability of the caterpillar flour, which is very low. So in as much as the protein is enhanced, which is good for me as a consumer, but if I'm not able to digest it, how useful will it be to the consumer finally? Because that protein that is good, that the body needs, cannot be digested, and anything that is not digested is assumed to pass out of the body. So my question is there something that you can envisage that can be done to this flour to improve the digestibility? Because the low digestibility is caused by the gluten, if I'm not wrong. So you need to think about something that can be done to minimize the effect of the gluten, either to remove it and to improve the digestibility to make the product finally useful to the consumer. That is my question, Ferdinand. I hope you have heard me.
Yes, I've had it.
Okay.
Yes, actually, if you look at the digestibility of the caterpillar, the protein is indeed it is digestible, but compared to most insects, the digestibility is low because, of course, of the anti-nutrients and the anti-nutrients, of course, and compared to other caterpillars which have got does not have the caterpillars like the Bunaeals, which are soft, then you realize that its digestibility is high, and that again can be attributed to things like the or the, I don't want to call them hair, but things like the spikes on this particular caterpillar. So they play an effect. From what I thought, something can be done on the, or can be done on the digestibility, and a way in which the digestibility can be improved, I think is something which I can consider and see on a way that I can work on it so that the digestibility of this given caterpillar is improved.
Thank you, Ferdinand. So I think you can work closely with your supervisors so that you can be able to tackle that issue that has been raised. There is one question in the chat that is asking, have you piloted with a sample population? This is coming from Monica Tonui.
Yeah, we have, let me just see, our first question is, Gizambezena caterpillar edible? Yes, they're edible. You go to Kilifi, they're being eaten, but those who eat them are the old people who used to eat them long time ago. The current generation, they fear them, they don't eat them, they look scary. That is what they say. Have you piloted with the sample population? I don't understand this so well, what she means.
Thank you, Ferdinand. And I think we will stop at that for that presenter. Thank you so much. So can you stop sharing if you're the one sharing? Our next presenter is Nkesiga. Is Nkesiga in the room? Nkesiga, if you're in the room, kindly unmute and let us know. We are going to share your presentation from our end.
I think the presentation I sent has got some changes, so I would like you to allow me using the one I have.
Okay, if you're going to share from your end, kindly share with us also.
Yes, please. Ladies and gentlemen, panel members, good morning. Welcome to my presentation. It is entitled Optimization of Protein, Total Minerals, Vitamin A content of orange fresh sweet potato, amaranth seed, and soybean.
Nkesiga, can you be able to?
My name is Jackson Nkesiga.
Slideshow mode. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Continue.
My name is Jackson Nkesiga. I'm from Rwanda. I'm an international student in Dairy, Food Science and Technology, Egerton University. The author of this article paper is Jackson Nkesiga, supervised by Dr. Penna Ngoda and Dr. Joseph Anyango. The general overview of this presentation will focus on the introduction, materials and methods, result and discussion, then finally conclusion and recommendations. As an introduction, food and nutrition security remains a major problem facing the world, especially in the developing world, including also sub-Saharan region. And the currently 2.37 billion of people worldwide suffer from severe food insecurity. And we have Africa, which is the second account, 1/3 with this big number. Then in that, when a healthy diet is there, it will help a person to have the the defense against various diseases. In 2020, many children under the age of 5 were stunted with 22%, while wasting is 6.7% globally. This malnutrition challenge is still in Africa also and Asia, while the other developing world are also facing that challenge. In Africa is the first continent again with hunger, with this value, 21% of the population suffering from hunger. Latin America and Caribbean accounts for 9.1%, while Asia accounts for 9%. In this, accessing and affordability of a healthy diet or sustainable produced food is a big problem to have, since nutrition situation and food scarcity has increased from the pandemic, that is COVID-19 situation that we are in nowadays. From that, orange fresh sweet potatoes has been used in infant foods to boost the vitamin A in children, but this orange fresh sweet potatoes has got a lot of has got a low value of protein content. Therefore, soybean, when incorporated in the orange fresh sweet potato, would help to increase the protein content, energy from fat, and minerals content, as soybean is rich in this nutritional content. However, the protein quality of orange fresh sweet potato and the soybean has a low level of some amino acids, which found high in amaranth seed. Therefore, blending orange fresh sweet potato, soybean together with amaranth seed could help to formulate a food that is highly nutritious for under 5 children. Again, vitamin A deficiency affects 190 million children under the year of 5 age, while anemia also is still affecting 33% worldwide. That was the statistics in the available statistics in 2017. From that, estimate of 55% of child deaths was linked to undernutrition. This undernutrition or malnutrition also, it is caused by inadequate dietary intake, That is to say, the calorie is inadequate, protein inadequate, and vitamin and minerals also are inadequate. Then it may be caused also by poor infant feeding practices, and also high disease burden. Again, limited access to nutritious food, low level of mother's education, inadequate care practices. Food fortification would help to solve the problem of malnutrition, but still it is too expensive. This table 1 shows the prevalence of undernourishment, severe food insecurity, and the form of malnutrition, where in 2018 worldwide population, the children were stunted at 21.9%, while Africa was at 30%. The sub-Saharan region, where we are now, was 32.1. When we come to East African countries, we see that Burundi is the first country having high rate of stunted children with 55.9, while Ethiopia is at 38.3. These children, when they are stunted, wasting, or when they are malnourished, they are exposed to high risk. And one of them, I would like to mention 3 of them. The children may got growth retardation, poor cognitive development, illness, and even the death. Therefore, there is a need to formulate highly nutritious food that could be easily affordable by many people from locally food groups. With that, this study content and vitamin flour that will contribute to food and nutrition security. The materials and the methods.
Jessica, kindly, you need to hurry up. You have 1 minute to your 10 minutes.
Oh, sorry. The analysis was carried at Egerton University and also Karonjoro and Naivasha. This is how the flour was made. This is that is with a zite blend. The total was 100. Yeah, so this extreme vertex method of mixture design was used for mixture design, and many type software was used to generate at 50 to 75%. Amaranth seed was at 15 to 30. Soybean flour was at 10 to 25%. This is the analysis method used, and also the reference. That analysis was used by SAS, and the mean difference was done by Turkey. Coefficient of determination, regression equations, and graphical presentations was done by Minitab. nutritional composition of raw material, it is indicated that orange fresh sweet potato was low in protein content, but high in carbohydrate and energy to protein ratio, while amaranthus amaranthus seed was also moderately in protein content, while soybean was high in protein content, but low in carbohydrate content. Sorry, I don't know what is happening. It's not going.
Just continue.
Yes. This figure 1 shows the optimum conditions where optimum orange fresh sweet potato is 67%, amaranth seed is 24%, then the soybean was 19%, with the overall coefficient of determination of %, and the optimum protein content was 14, total minerals was 4.7, and also vitamin A content was 813. So this is the graphical representation of each protein, each optimized ingredients. The first one here is the protein content, where you can get a maximum of protein content between soybean and amaranth. As you increase the orange fresh sweet potato, the protein content will reduce. Then on the figure 2, the total minerals was high in soybean, and you can have soybean here as high content. And when the mineral content will reduce as the incorporation of amaranth seed is high. So the highest mineral content will be obtained around here. So considering the vitamin A content, orange fresh sweet potato is the one contributing very high, and it reduces as you increase soybean. Then this is the overall optimization that has protein content, total minerals. Figure shows this region, white region, shows the optimum, where the optimum lies, the optimum content of protein, total minerals, and vitamin A. This is the relation equations of coefficient of determination here, which shows that in all tested parameter, it was above 8%, which is good for statistical justification. This figure 3 shows the mineral content. This study evaluated also mineral content, where magnesium was high and sodium was following, then potassium. As the conclusion, the optimum blend for this study was 57, 24, and 19. Soybean and amaranth seed respectively, and this optimum blend was able to give us protein content 2%, total minerals of 7.7, 4.7% and the 13.6. The finding here could be used for the processing of nutritious food for maybe people in need of protein, energy, and micronutrient. And this also could be used to promote, these crops could be used to promote utilization of orange fresh sweet potatoes. I would like to acknowledge my supervisors for every step they are with me, and I would also like to acknowledge Egerton University for the conducive learning environment, laboratory activities, facilities. Then finally, I would like to acknowledge my sponsor, CESAM, the Center for and Agribusiness Management for scholarship and financial support. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Gesiga, for that presentation. Now we will welcome questions or comments from the audience. Kindly raise up your hand or put it in the chat. I'm not seeing any question in the chat, nor am I seeing any hand raised up. So it means this was a good, well presented. We have grasped everything that was said. I think we'll move to the next presenter. In case you have any question or comment, we can revisit that at the end of the session, if we have some time.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, thank you. Our next presenter is going to be Nyamai. Is Nyamai logged in?
I can see her.
Nyamai, kindly unmute and let us know if you are there so that we can start sharing your presentation.
I'm here.
Okay. Continue with introducing yourself as we share your presentation.
My name is Dosila Nyamai from Egerton University, and my supervisors are just Dr. Joseph Anyango and Professor Mary Omwamba. And my title today is for this study is rheological properties of composite flours and physicochemical properties of wheat, cassava, and bamboo shoot composite bread. Kindly share the slides. I sent the slides yesterday. Kindly share the slides.
Kindly, Nyamai, share from your side. The secretariat cannot be able to see the slides you sent. They are only seeing this poster presentation.
Okay, kindly remove this one so I can share.
You can now share, Nyamai. Priscilla, are you getting your presentation?
I'm trying to share it.
Kindly share with the secretariat also. Nyamai, sorry, as you share that with the secretariat, I think we'll move to the next presenter. We'll come back to you after the next presentation. Kindly share your slides with the secretariat. The email is on the chat. The other presenter, the next one is Oyim, Irene.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, you continue with introducing yourself.
Okay, is it okay if also I share the slides? They'll be shared on the other side.
Just share them.
Okay.
Okay.
Go to the first slide and you start your presentation.
My name is Irene Ragar Oyim. I am a student at Egerton University. I am Kenyan, and my work was on effect of pre-gelatinization conditions on the physical, chemical, and functional properties of taro flour. This is a work I did alongside with the guidance of my supervisors, that is Dr. Joseph Anyango and Professor Mary Omwamba. For this discussion, I'll go through introduction, the limitations of taro, materials and method, the results and discussion, conclusion and acknowledgement. Under the threat of food insecurity, root and tubers have a myriad and complex parts to play in feeding the world for decades to come. And you find that it comes in second after cereals, and it forms 20% of the dietary calories of low to medium income countries, such as the sub-Saharan countries. Annually, the global estimation for production of root and tuber crops is estimated to be at 836 million metric tons, with Africa second after Asia. However, we experience a lot of food losses, and in sub-Saharan Africa, it is estimated that the loss is estimated to cost about $4 billion per year, or equated to food enough to feed about 48 million people. A combination of root and tuber and oil crops form 20% of this loss. In this category of root and tubers, we have cassava, potatoes, and taro. And you find that researchers have delved into cassava potato production. However, taro has been left behind, and hence the interest. Taro is a herbaceous root plant that is mainly grown for its combs, the root, the tuber, and also in some countries, they eat the leaves as well. The global production is estimated to be at 10.3 million, with Africa leading at 72.2%. And this is according to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations as of 2019. The largest producer are West African countries, with Nigeria, Cameroon, and Ghana at the forefront. In East Africa, we have Rwanda and Burundi leading at 2.1 and 1.1 respectively. However, you find that in Kenya, despite root and tuber and cereals forming 50% of our consumption, there's no data, there's no latest data on our production of taro, and the last recorded one was in 2017 by FAO of the United Nations. So why is taro underutilized and underexplored? You find that like most tubers, taro has high moisture content, which makes it highly perishable. And also this just aggravates the loss that we experience along the chain. And as such, it can be processed into other stuff to help curb these, into other food products to help curb these. The other reason is because it also contains high amount of anti-nutritional and accretive factors, such as oxalate and phytic acid, which you find that the calcium oxalate present causes irritation and burning sensation when you consume taro. And also the phytate, they interfere with the absorption of nutrients that the body needs. So to help out with this situation, processing of taro into products such as flour by using techniques such as pre-gelatinization was envisaged by this study. And the flour can therefore be used in food application as thickeners, in products, and in infant formulation. Small process involves application of heat to fit structural and the functional properties. Apply enough heat to a point that it brings about gelatinization, followed by drying and grinding. And thereafter, you'll get your flour. The flour has altered properties because you've disrupted the starch granule structure. And this can either enhance like flour properties such as the water holding and swelling capacities. My study therefore aimed at investigating the effect of various pre-gelatinization conditions on the physical, chemical, and the functional properties of taro flour. For this study, I used the Dashin type of taro comb, which I obtained from Embu. And to prepare the flour, I cleaned and I cleaned, peeled, steeped, and then cut them to about 5mm thickness. For the pre-gelatinization condition tested, we roasted at 130, steamed at 100 degrees, and boiled at 95 degrees for 10, 20, 30 minutes each, respectively. This was then followed by drying at 50 degrees for 24 hours, after which the dried taro chunks were milled into flour. For the analysis I carried out, under the physical-chemical properties, I did color determination and total oxalate content. For the functional properties, I tested on bulk density, water holding capacity, oil holding capacity, water absorption, water solubility index, water absorption index, and swelling capacity. and swelling capacity. So for the results, to determine the effect of pre-gelatinization method on color, I tested for the lightness, which is either the whiteness or the darkness of the flour, the hue, which is the color that can be perceived by the human eye, and the chroma, which now indicates the intensity of the color, or lightness in range from 37 to 70.3, with roasting having the highest light index, and control, which now was the raw taro, having the least, meaning it was darker. And this is because you find that the raw is endowed with the color pigments such as anthocyanin, which is the purple color we see in taro when you either cut it and now as you roll to discoloration, and now the flour tending towards being white. The hue, which is the color that can be perceived by the human eye, it generally influences the perception a consumer will have and the acceptability of the product, and therefore it is very important. The hue ranged from 42.64 to 69.43, and you find that on the hue scale, we have 0, 90, and 180, representing the colors red, yellow, and green respectively. And so we find that in roasting, we had the highest hue color, and this can be attributed to the fact that during roasting, which is dry heating, there may have been a reaction between the heat and carbohydrates such as caramelization. To determine the effect of gelatinization methods on the total oxalate content, the results I showed that the raw had the unprocessed form of taro had the highest amount of oxalate, which was at 76 points, resulted in the roasting had the least reduction in terms of the oxalate content. You find these oxalate causes are detrimental to our health because they cause, they aggravate situation of kidney stones and also interfere with the absorption of minerals such as calcium. We therefore need to reduce them to amount that is acceptable. So this can be done by either soaking, fermenting, and also by heating. The heating can be done by either boiling, steaming, or baking. So you find that the unstable, and this acid, diketogluconic acid, tend to degrade oxalate. Also, you find that the kinetics of the reduction of oxalate generally follows a first order reaction, meaning it can be influenced by time and temperature. So the higher the temperature and the longer you heat, the more oxalate you will reduce. For the functional properties I tested on, in the bulk density, water absorption index, water holding capacity, and the swelling capacity. And you find that the bulk density, which generally is measures the heaviness of the flour, and also it's an important parameter for how you handle the flour in terms of packaging, the packaging requirement, and also just its application in food, ranged between 0.86 to 0.8 flour for boiling, and steaming had 0.81 to 0.8. This, as you tend towards 1, it means it's a flour with higher bulk density. And this is especially important in terms of a food that can be used to reduce thickening for patients that are people recovering from illnesses or in food formulation for children, because in children you require low bulk density flours. I also observed that the waterability is, and now that is the raw taro flour, and this can be attributed to the destruction of the starch granules. As you interfere with the granules, you expose their side chains, and these side chains, when it comes to contact with water through hydrogen bonding, they're able to imbibe and hold on to this water, hence the increase in these functional properties. But when you look across the different methods, you find that there was a decrease. And this is because as you continue to heat the product, there's total loss of the crystallinity, which now results in the decrease of the now water holding and water absorption indices. To conclude on this, you find that the different pre-gelatinization conditions, they affected the physical, chemical, and functional properties of the flour when compared to the raw flour. Boiling has significant reduction in total oxalate content. Steaming has significant effect on water holding capacity, water absorption index, and soiling capacity. Roasting affects the color characteristics of index. And owing to these properties, the suitability of our pre-gelatinized taro flour can therefore be determined for various applications in the food industry. I want to thank my supervisors for working with me on this, and to also thank Louis Dreyfus for the research funds. I also want to thank the Egerton fraternity for organizing this conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene, for that presentation. We now welcome any comments or questions.
Irene, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, but you're very low.
Can you hear me now?
You're a bit far.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. I will stream, but yes, I can.
You can hear me. Thank you for your presentation. I have a question or an observation.
Okay.
You have said that this taro is very high in oxalates.
Yes.
And oxalates interfere with the utilization of calcium. So to mitigate against oxalates, you have recommended heat treatment, either through roasting or boiling or steaming. Is that so?
Yes. Yes.
But aren't those an added cost in terms of fuel and also time?
Hello.
Let me finish and then you can answer about. Then you have said that the longer you expose the taro to heat treatment, the better, because then you can be able to remove as much of the oxalates as possible. But then I am afraid that as you get rid of the oxalates, you'll also be getting rid of an essential amino acid, lysine. That's a bad compromise to me, in as far as I'm concerned, because without lysine, even if you don't have the oxalate, that flour or that fluid will not be very useful to the body. You may have to look for synthetic lysine. So my question is twofold. I'm asking about the cost in terms of fuel and time. Vis-a-vis also the compromise you suffer by losing lysine. Now you can respond. Thank you.
Okay, about the cost and time, I will say I'm not sure in terms, I know it will cost a bit in terms of the energy used, but I cannot do a full cost analysis in terms of like money-wise. For the loss of lysine, you find that most tubers generally have low protein content, and taro is among that list. And even with the loss of lysine, which is now cause of heating, the best way to be able to meet your nutritional needs would then mean that you probably get add on onto whatever you're consuming the taro with that has high protein content. Let's say, for example, maybe legumes such as soybean or even animal protein, because just relying on taro alone to meet your protein need would not be sufficient. Hello.
Thank you for the response, Irene. I don't know whether.
Irene.
Yeah.
I'm saying, if I go to the shop to buy synthetic lysine, that is a cost to me as a consumer. And the time it will take for me to look for firewood or look for gas to heat up this stuff is also taking my time. And even the firewood maybe I'm buying. So I'm suggesting you just maybe look at it, just speculate in your write-up. Finally, somebody may want to ask you that, so you can think through it.
I'm sorry, could you pardon and try go slower and a bit audible?
What she's saying, what Professor is saying is that you should think about what she has asked. Just try and think around that area of the cost and the loss of lysine in your product. Any other question or comment?
Hey, so the other, you are lost.
Sorry?
I'm saying you are lost for a while. I don't know if it's just me experiencing it or everyone else.
What I was saying, what Professor Ambula is saying is that you think about the cost and the loss of lysine, especially when you're doing your write-up.
Okay.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello? Yeah. What the presenter is saying is that those of us who are following from elsewhere cannot hear you clearly. So as you spoke, or the person who was asking the question, Professor spoke, it actually broke. So she couldn't get the question. I think there's probably a network issue on your side.
Okay. Probably I'll repeat it again. What
now we can hear you. Okay.
What Professor Ambula was saying is that Irene should think about including the cost and the reasons for the loss of lysine and how that can be counted in her write-up.
Okay, yeah, got it.
Okay, thank you. Any other question or suggestion? Kindly stop sharing, Irene, so that we can move to the next presenter. We'll go back to Nyamai.
Okay.
Nyamai, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
We will share your slides from our end. So
okay. So good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I'm Dosila Nyamai, and I'm supervised by Dr. Joseph Anyango and Mary Mwamba, or Professor Mary Mwamba from Egerton University. And the title of this study is Rheological Properties of Composite Floods and the physicochemical properties of wheat, cassava, and bamboo shoot composite bread. That's what I'm going to discuss. So due to many reasons such as climate change and increasing population, there is a food insecurity and malnutrition that has risen. And most food industries are now focusing on enriching indigenous staple foods like wheat flour or even maize flour with locally available nutritious and underutilized food crops. You find that some of these underutilized crops is bamboo shoots, mainly from the bamboo, and it has drawn significant global interest owing to its high nutritional content in terms of the protein, dietary fiber, and even minerals, and also health promoting compounds such as phytosterols. The current trends in the development of food products of high nutritional value usually involve blending plants or plant-based products that are abundant in specific nutrients of interest. So in this study, there are 5 levels of bamboo shoot, 0%, 2.5, 5, 7.5, and 10% that were substituted for wheat cassava being maintained in the ratio of 80-20. And then the 80-20 was still the control for this study. And the objective was to evaluate the rheological properties of the wheat cassava bamboo shoot composite flours that were to be generated, and then determine the physicochemical properties of the resulting composite loaves of bread. So the methods involved were preparation of cassava flour, that is preparation of the cassava after harvesting, 10 to 24 hours post-harvest, then peeling, washing, drying up to moisture content of 10 to 12, and then grating, and then milling. And then also refined wheat flour was obtained from the shops. And then the bamboo shoot flour was, the bamboo shoot was harvested from Mount Elgon. And then the 2 to 3 husks, the rough husks were removed. And then the soft edible parts were washed, and then they were partially sun-dried, then transported to the laboratory where they were fully dried in an oven at 60 degrees for 72 hours. That is like 3 days. Then the compositing was done according to the above ratios. Then the ingredients such as 6% sugar, 5% instant yeast, 1% salt, 3% margarine, and 65% water was added for each treatment. And these percentages were kept constant. Then to produce bread, there was mixing, kneading 2 to 7 minutes, depending on the composition of the flour, molding, panning, proving for 90 minutes. Then the oven baking temperatures were 230 to 240, then 25 to 40 minutes. Then cooling and slicing. Then the necessary experiments were done. So on some of the analysis that were done were rheological properties of the composite flours, and one of them is water absorption capacity. And we can see from this figure, the water absorption capacity increased with increase in bamboo shoot flour. Then the normal falling number was greatest at 0%, that is the control, compared to these others where bamboo shoots were added. Then on the softening, there was increase up to 7.5% bamboo shoot incorporation. Next. So the control had the lowest water absorption of 55.3% compared to composite flour containing 10% bamboo shoot that had 63.8%. And the normal falling number, as we've seen, was highest in control, and that recorded 369 compared to these other composites, which had a normal falling number of up to 319. Next slide. On the physical properties, the major determinants of a loaf of bread is volume, weight, and also specific volume. So, as well as the color. that were determined using the lightness and browning index. So on the loaf volume, you can see that with increase in bamboo shoot flour, the volume decreased. Also, in loaf weight, there was general increase in weight compared to that of control. And also specific volume decreased. On crumb lightness was highest in 0% bamboo shoot flour compared to these other ones that showed a decrease with increase in bamboo shoot. And on the browning index, increased with increase in bamboo shoot. Next slide. So the bread made from 2.55 and 7.5 and 10% had significantly different loaf volume and specific volume from control, as we've seen. And also there was no significant difference in terms of browning index for loaves with 2.5, 5, 7.5, and 10%. And even from the pictures of the sliced one, I think you can easily see the color changes with addition of bamboo shoot. On the nutritional composition, I want us to focus on ash, crude fiber, and protein. All of them showed an increase with increase in bamboo shoot addition. And for total carbohydrates, energy value, and energy to protein ratio, there was a decrease. Next slide. So the composite bread with 10% bamboo shoot had the highest total ash, crude fiber, and protein at 4.51, 5.26, 26.4 compared to control 0.66, 0.88, and 0.15 respectively. And this is clearly evident that the more you add bamboo shoot, the more the total ash, crude fiber, and also the protein. And there was no significant difference between the protein ratio, energy to protein ratio of 2.5, 5, 7.5, and 10% bamboo shoot composite bread. So to just say something about these findings, the variation in water absorption resulted from substantial hydroxyl groups that exist in fiber structures, and that permitted additional water interaction through hydrogen bonding. And increasing the fiber content also contributed to dough modification of the dough structure, and also resulted in smaller extensibility, endurance, and as a result, greater water absorption. Normal falling number that is high is as a result of causes low alpha amylase activity, while low normal falling number shows high alpha amylase activity. So blending wheat, cassava, and bamboo should normally contribute considerable starch amount that provide more substrate for alpha amylase. And that's why there was low falling number compared to control. And the reduction in volume can be described as a negative impact by non-wheat flours, that is bamboo shoot and cassava, which significantly affect the micromolecular network of gluten by disruption and also its dilution. The significant brownness of the crumbs are as a result of inherent dark color of bamboo shoot flour. And if you look at the bamboo shoot flour, it's normally dark or browner than the wheat flour or the cassava. The high amounts of proteins, dietary fiber, and ash in bamboo shoot is evident. The amino acid content of bamboo shoot is much higher compared to those found in onions, carrots, and even vegetables. And it also, studies have also found that bamboo shoot is very high in essential amino acids, actually all of them. And studies by Santosh 2016, Santosh et al. 2016 found out that intake of 25 to 29 grams of dietary fiber per day was has a positive impact on bowel movement, cardiovascular disease, and even breast cancer. Hence, these juvenile shoots contain huge biomass, hence can be an alternative source of dietary fiber needed in the enrichment of various food products. In conclusion, we can say that the bamboo shoot flour can be blended with wheat cassava composites to improve nutrition, increase bamboo utilization, especially here in Kenya where bamboo shoot is not that known, and also provide diversification in bakery products. And this can also be in other products like dairy products. The current exploration of bamboo shoots could be a game changer in food manufacturing sector through this compositing to enrich these foods. Future studies can focus on functional properties and also in vitro protein digestibility of wheat cassava bamboo shoot composites. And I want to thank SESAM for funding this study, and also Egerton University for organizing this conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Nyamai, for that presentation. Now it's time for asking questions or comments. We want to invite anybody with a question or a comment. Seems like there is none, but in case you have any, you can raise it at the end of the presentation. I just want to check on the chat to see whether there is any question there. I don't see any. So we will move on to the next presenter, but in case you have any question or any comment to make, we'll give an opportunity at the end of the presentations. The next presenter is Katiku. Mercy, I don't know whether you are in attendance.
Yes, Prof, I'm in attendance.
Okay. Yes. So we are going to share your slides from our end, and I hope those are the slides that you want to present. So you can go ahead and introduce yourself, then continue. You have 10 minutes to do your presentation.
Thank you, Prof. My name is Mercy Mwikali, a student from Egerton University and a citizen of Kenya. And my presentation will be about the probiotic properties and safety profiling of Lactobacillus plantarum isolated from spontaneously fermented milk, Amabere Amarunani. My supervisors were Professor Joseph Matoferi and Dr. John Nduko. Welcome. Yeah, on to introduction. According to FAO, probiotics, they are viable microorganisms that confer health benefits to the host when they are consumed in the right way. So mostly probiotics have their own benefits. There are studies which have shown that probiotics, they have a therapeutic effect. Some have said that they have cancer, they prevent cancer. Some they help in weight loss. Others, they have said that they reduce allergen diseases. Also, they are able to reduce cardiovascular diseases. And also, most studies are based on the improvement on bowel movement, preventing constipation. They also aid in preventing pathogenic microorganism or spoiled microorganism from growing and causing diarrhea. For example, the Escherichia coli. There are also probiotics that are able to reduce anti-nutrients. Most of the foods that are fed to children, they contain anti-nutrients, mostly cereals and tubers. They contain phytates, for example, the legumes, they contain protease inhibitors. For example, the cereals like finger millet that you use for porridge contains tannins. That these anti-nutrients, they hinder the bioavailability of nutrients to the body. Next slide. Yeah, probiotics, most microorganisms that have been considered as probiotics are mostly Bifidobacterium. We have Lactobacillus, we have Streptococcus, Lactococcus, and we also have probiotic bacteriums. These are mostly the ones that have majorly been studied, and the foods that have been isolated from, we have yogurt. Yogurt is also one of the most consumed. We also have porridge, although most of it is spontaneously fermented currently in our nation. We also have sauerkraut and many other foods that have probiotics food that are considered probiotics. Next slide. Yeah, fermented foods that contain live probiotics, they are considered functional foods because of the benefits that come with the probiotics. A study that has been done in India by this organization, they have been producing food that will help the children boost the immunity towards the COVID-19, since the children are not being vaccinated. So this one has been very important during this period, and I think probiotic foods are in the top line to boost immunity. And also most of the Lactobacillus microorganisms, they have been used in both animals and human beings as probiotics. Lactobacillus plantarum is one of the most studied microorganism because of its versatility, and it has been isolated from numerous foods. Next slide. Yeah, and in our study, the one that we used, it was being isolated from Amabere Amaruranu, which is thanks to Sichangi, who did this work in Egerton University. And in our study, wanted to check whether this locally probiotic would be able to have the probiotic properties and whether it would be safe for use. And also, we had to follow the guidelines that have been given by FAO and WHO, like its survival in the GIT, antibiotics resistance, antimicrobial activity, and others. And why is it this study important? This study is very important because many of the African fermented foods are spontaneously fermented. And some studies, for example, the murisik have been said to cause esophageal cancer. And also due to unhygienic handling, it has been said that some of these foods, like the spontaneously fermented porridge, have been said to cause diarrhea in children or gastrointestinal infections. And so this will be very important in terms of providing a pure starter culture for the fermentation of locally fermented foods. And also we'll be able to commercialize some of the foods that have not been commercialized yet. And also this will provide a cheap and accessible starter cultures. Right now, the ones that we are using, they are conventionally made and they are not really available to the local person. And also we'll be able to industrialize some of these products that will be made using the pure starter cultures, and we'll be able to alleviate malnutrition. As we can see currently, we are facing drought cases in most of the area parts of East Africa. Next slide. Yeah, onto our methodology. What we did, we consider the temperature sensitivity. We determined the acid tolerance of our various pH. We also did resistance to phenol. We also did antagonistic activity, and we obtained the zone diameter inhibition values. Next slide. We also did the safety profiling of the microorganism, where we checked its hemolytic activity, and we also did its antibiotic susceptibility to the most commonly used antibiotics. Next slide. So the reason why we did this is in order to confer health benefits to animals and to humans. Lactic acid bacteria have been developed and applied as probiotics. Temperature sensitivity is an essential factor. This helps us to determine whether this microorganism will be able to survive the normal body temperature, whether it will be able to withstand the industrial production conditions. So we wanted to know which temperature is preferable. And also we wanted to see whether it will be able to survive the harsh stomach condition due to the acidity that is usually there to prevent a pathogenic microorganism or harmful bacteria from passing to the gut to cause diseases. Next slide. So on to our temperature, what we found out was that Lactobacillus plantarum was able to grow well at 30 degrees and 37 degrees as compared to 20 degrees and 45 degrees. As you can see from the graph, you can see it had though it did not lose its viability, but its metabolic activity was really reduced. And so its growth was reduced at 20 degrees and 45 degrees, but it was able to grow well at 37 degrees, which was its optimal temperature. This was very important in showing that it can be able to survive the body temperature, and now we knew the kind of the temperature it needed for during the industrial production. Next slide. Onto the acid tolerance, we use a control. The control was the one, the media, which had 6.5, and you can see for the control, the microorganism was able to grow very well, but compared to the pH 2 and 2.5, we experienced low growth, but pH 3 and pH 3.5, the microorganism was able to grow and increase. Though we, at the end of the 4 hours, we did not choose the Lactobacillus plantarum viability, hence meaning that it could be able to survive the stomach pH, which goes up to low as 1.5 during fasting. Next slide. It was important to check phenols. They are metabolites that are produced in the intestines as a byproduct of aromatic amino acid, and they have bacteriostatic effect to the microorganism and could hinder their growth. So we had to check whether it could be able to resist the 0.4% phenol. Next slide. According to these slides, you can see that we use the control that did not have phenol, and as you can see, there was no significant difference between the control and the test that had 0.4% phenol. We can see that they were almost the same. The growth was almost the same. So this showed that Lactobacillus plantarum exhibited resistance toward phenol. Next slide. Yeah, we did also an antagonistic activity. This was to check the susceptibility of the microorganism to these antibiotics that we commonly use. And it is important because when a microorganism that is resistant, that means it can be able to pass on its resistance to other microorganisms in the intestines, as we know that the gut has so many millions and millions of microorganisms. So we needed to test to see whether it was resistant. And you can see that for the nalidixic acid and ampicillin and ciprofloxacin, the microorganism was a bit resistant. And for the, though it was sensitive to azithromycin, tetracycline, and gentamicin and chloramphenicol. Next slide. This was the pictorial representation of what we saw. The first picture represents nalidixic acid, where you can see that the zone diameter of inhibition was really small compared to the tetracycline, which the zone diameter of inhibition was really wide. Next slide. We also checked the antibiotic susceptibility against 4 pathogenic microorganisms. And these microorganisms are the most indicator microorganisms like Salmonella and Escherichia coli. They are indicator microorganisms for hygiene. And so, as you can see, the zone diameter of inhibition for Salmonella and E. coli was really huge as compared to Staphylococcus aureus and Candida albicans. Though for all of them, they were able to be hindered. Yes, next slide. So, the antagonistic activity against the pathogens was very important. This goes way to show that it can be able to prevent intestinal pathogenic infections, and it can be able to provide healthy microbial balance in the gut. And when we use it during fermentation or in making fermented food, it can prevent food spoilage and extend shelf life. For novel probiotic, screening for safety also is very paramount. We need to make sure that the microorganism is not virulent, is not able to transmit antibiotic resistance, and also the toxin, it's not able to produce toxin or hemolyze the blood. Next slide. For the hemolytic activity, we found out that Lactobacillus plantarum did not cause any, did not hemolyze the blood, which is characterized as gamma hemolytic activity. we did not observe any clear, as you can see, any clear where we had strict, we did not observe any clear zone. And this showed that it is not virulent. Next slide. To my conclusion of my study is that this Lactobacillus plantarum isolate could be one of the it possesses excellent probiotic properties because of its high resistance to pH, to temperature, being able to survive the body temperature, its resistance to phenol, and it was susceptible to most of the antibiotic we tested. And it showed a strong antagonistic activity towards human pathogens. So this showed that Lactobacillus plantarum, according to the result, can be used to produce safe and functional foods. And although more of the study needs to be done to show its in vivo activity, and also to investigate the immunodilatory, nutritional, and health benefits. I would like to acknowledge Mr. Stangi for isolating this microorganism and enabling me to proceed on with my work, and also like to thank Madam Isiko of Microbiology Lab for assisting me during the research, and also to my supervisors. I owe them a great gratitude for helping me throughout the research. My work was funded by Center of Excellence in Sustainable Agriculture and Agribusiness Management through World Bank, and I also like to thank the Almighty God for enabling me to reach this far. Thank you. Be blessed.
Thank you, Mercy, for that good presentation. We welcome questions and suggestions or any comments.
I don't know whether you able to hear me. Hello? You are hear me? Hello? Hello, Mercy, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can hear you, Dr. Nyang.
Mercy?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, there's something.
Hello?
You can.
I know. Hello, Mercy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, thank you. Now, I just want to have just one question, perhaps so that you clarify, maybe to the audience too. Perhaps I would like you to revisit the significance of checking for resistance of this Lactobacillus plantarum to phenol. What is the relevance of that?
Yeah, this is checking its resistance towards the phenol. Phenol are usually metabolites that are produced in the intestines as a byproduct of aromatic amino acids. They are derived from the dietary and endogenous deamination by bacteria. Hello? Hello, Dr. Nyango? Hello?
Yes, Mercy, I think that is where I needed the clarification so that we see, now that you know that they're resistant, how is that applicable? You're saying that these are byproducts from the amino acids, some of those phenols. So how is that relevant to the overall application or use of this bacterium as a probiotic?
Yeah, number one, for phenols, apart from them being found in the intestines as a byproduct, phenols, they are also found in cereals, and mostly phenols, they have bacteriostatic effect, they are able to hinder microorganisms from growing. And what is important with the probiotics, for it to confer its benefits, it must be alive in the intestines to confer its health benefits. So if it cannot be able to resist these phenols, then that means that this probiotic will not be able to confer its health benefits to the gut. And if these phenols are found in the food, this means that this microorganism will not be able to survive the microorganism if it is not resistant to the phenol. Yeah, I think that is most important.
Thank you very much. I think that's clear. Thank you very much, Mercy.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mercy, for the response. Is there any other person with a comment or a question? We can move to the next presenter. Our next presenter is Abrahet.
Yes, Prof.
Abrahet, are you logged?
Yes,
in?
I'm around. Can I share? Can I share my slide? Hello?
Abrahet, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
She was having internet challenges. If she can't, probably we'll move to the next one.
Can you hear me?
Abrahet?
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah.
Good
As she
afternoon.
continues to sort out her internet challenge.
Prof, Abrahet is there.
We
Is
will move to
your
the next
side that has a
presenter, who is
problem?
Karanja.
Chair, we can hear Abrahet clearly. I think the problem is on your side.
Hello?
Is Karanja logged in?
Yes, I'm logged in, but Abrahet has started presenting.
Good afternoon, Prof.
If there's no response from Karanja,
no one may unmute.
The next presenter will
Hello?
be Alo.
Abrahet is clear.
Is Alo
We
in
can
the
hear
room?
Abrahet clearly.
Oh, Prof, can you hear me? I can
We
hear
can
you
hear
clearly.
Abrahet.
Can I proceed? Hello?
Abrahet, clear.
Yes.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello, Abrahet. I think what we do, the problem could be with the chair.
Yeah.
And but you're in and we can hear you. So what I suggest we do is just hang in there with your slide, because we need
let
to
us
get
sort out our issue from our side.
we need to see the chair to sort out the issue on her side. Meanwhile, just hold on to the slides as we wait for the chair to sort out the issue on her side, and then we can proceed.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's go back to Abrahet. We have sorted out the issue that was on our side.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. So my name is Abrahet. So I will be presenting on the sesame value chain and microbial quality of crude sesame oil. This study was conducted in Ethiopia, in Western Tigray. So me and my supervisors will be the owner of this work. So coming to the introduction, sesame is normally economically important oil crop in Ethiopia for forex earning, as well as for the livelihood of the sesame growing farmers. So this sesame belongs to the flowering oily seed. So it is adaptable to diversified agroecological condition, and it requires about 90 days from the time of plantation up to maturity. And crude sesame oil is edible oil, unrefined edible oil commonly used for cooking, salad dressing, blending component in the other oil industry as a blending ingredient. And also it is used as ointment. But the major problem in that crude sesame oil is it has storage instability, discoloration, and off flavor development. The other issue, sesame by nature, the seed as well as sesame-based products are sensitive to different agroclimatic and environmental factors, such as pests, different kinds of pests. They just are attracted to the sesame while it is in the field or in the storage. And also due to poor handling as well as sanitary conditions, this sesame is experiencing high economic loss as well as food insecurity issue. So the purpose of this study was normally to assess the sesame value chain as well as the microbial quality of crude sesame so that we can improve its quality or to track what are the challenges along the value chain. Normally, an potential agricultural area is water, and the major crops that are produced in the area are sesame, sorghum, cottonseed, and livestock are the most predominant products in the area. So in order to draw the sesame value chain, participants were drawn from the value chain, about 320 participants systematically randomed from the farmers, researchers, agro-processing owners, regulatory extension workers, and with our market dealers. So the data was inserted to SPSS in order to compete their involvement as well as their role in the sesame value chain. So as you can see from the picture, the green one is what you call it western part of Tigray, which is in Ethiopia, in Tigray region, and it is a productive area in terms of agriculture. And also sesame seed, crude sesame oil, and water were sampled. So sesame seed was sampled in cotton seed and sesame oil as well as water was sampled in and also hello.
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 We can hear you.
Hello.
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 What is happening?
Can you hear
Hello.
me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Continue.
To the Sesame Valley. Coming to the Sesame Valley. Normally, the sesame is an organic agriculture, but due to poor agricultural practices, from the picture, the farm is really sensitive to a number of insects as well as different pests. So the post-harvest loss was recorded very high. And generally, sesame is by nature is very sensitive to biological and environmental factors. As a result, there is a high economic loss as well as safety is compromised due to the growth of microorganisms as well as the macroorganism attack towards the seed while it was in the field to dry, even during the cultivation process. And as you can see from the upcoming picture, the sesame handling condition by itself. Yes, the sesame after harvesting, the sesame is handled by either unions as well as cooperatives or individual farmers in their own storage facility. So if you can see the storage facility, it is made up of stainless steel in a warm climatic condition. It reaches sometimes up to 42 degrees centigrade, and the external environment is very unhygienic and full of trashes, full of bush, which helps to hide out some of the microorganisms, and they can sneak in and they can damage the seed. And also the other storage facility, as you can see, even if it is clean from inside, made up of a block, which is cemented very well, but from the external environment, it is very humid. They can absorb moisture, so the fungi and the other associated microorganisms can easily grow. So as a result, the post-harvest loss due to microbial microbes or microorganism attack, the post-harvest loss of sesame was really high. So inappropriate storage practice, in particular in the warm climatic condition, as well as inadequate cleanness, increase high post-harvest loss. And the other value chain is normally the value addition. Normally what is happening in the real activity scenario in that area, that is a value addition. One of the value addition is impurity separation, cleaning, then color sorting, as you can see from the picture, and dehulling process. Then from that, it goes directly either to oil extraction, or it can go directly to marketing to the different market segments around the world. So as a result from this sesame is highly economically important to the country. It was around 307 up to 619 million USD dollar in the year of 2011 to 2017. But at the same time, around approximately 35% of the seed was lost, as you can see, due to the inappropriate harvesting practices, inappropriate or storage practices, as well as the value addition losses, plus the oil extraction, transportation, and loading and unloading losses. The cumulative of around 35% of the seed was lost. In addition, the oil, the crude sesame oil quality degradation is also the bigger challenge. So the other thing, from the survey that was conducted, just inclusive of 320 participants, 74% were more than 30 years of age. So the age by itself is important because they know they're responsible in order to handle it, but still there are challenges. So out of the stakeholders, 26.7% were from the farmers at different scale of farming, and they were gender inclusive. 37.2% were women, and 25.6% of the stakeholders were illiterate with no formal education. Most of them were small scale farmers as well as low-wage employees. From these stakeholders, around 27% were technical experts, like the agricultural extension, soil and water conservation, pest control, post-harvest management, community health, post-harvest technology. From those technical expertise, 8.9% were regulatories. Mainly, they regulate the use of unregistered or unpermitted pesticide, because the farmers just use some illegally imported pesticides. So this use of unregistered pesticide may affect the market value, the economic value, as well as it may affect the health value, because however, even if the 27.2% were the technical experts, but the stakeholders, around 90% of the stakeholders claim to be there, they are not getting any technical expertise, or they are not getting any training on how to use the pesticides and the other related activities along the value chain. And there were also the researchers were also involved with, like in post-harvest management, the agro-processing toward the sesame-based products, and sesame breed, and others were involved. From the other, around 22.2% were the market dealers, and 6.7% were the market intermediate, mainly dominated, monopolized by the Ethiopian Commodity Exchange. So what were the challenges? Yes. Yes.
Kindly, can you summarize your work?
All right. So
you had 10 minutes of presentation.
All right, okay. The challenges were normally the inadequacy of good practice with insufficient skills, and the sesame sensitivity to different environmental factors, limited reliable and time information towards the market, as well as interference of the brokers along the value chain were the major challenges, in addition to the financial constraints as well as the transparency issue. So the microbial quality of crude sesame oil was just assessed. So the aerobic bacteria, coliforms, fungi, aspergillus species, and staphylococcus were identified, while E. coli, salmonella, and shigella were not detected in crude sesame oil. So once these microorganisms were detected in crude sesame oil, the source of the contaminants were traced in the facility equipment, the extraction machine and the filtration machine, as well as protective clothing, just the employee that supposed to use, as well as in the indoor as well as outdoor environment during production. So as you can see from the table, the oil by itself, the Arabic bacteria, total coliform, and yeast and mold, aspergillus, fungi, and staphylococcus aureus was detected in crude sesame oil. Even if they are not exceeding the tolerable limit according to the codex, which is 3 low coloriforming needs, but the crude sesame oil is not further treated. There is no thermal treatment. As it is extracted, it will be packed without any thermal treatment, so they will continue growing. So it might be a serious issue towards the safety of the crude sesame oil, as well as towards the consumer's health. So the source, as you can see, from the filling machine, filtration machine, filling the floor of the sesame store, as well as wall of the extraction plant. Swab sample was taken, and from the table, as you can see, Arabic bacteria was detected. It's at high level, total coliforming unit, as well as even the aspergillus species, which are very toxic, and they are capable of producing the mycotoxins, were also detected. Plus, in addition to that, the Staphylococcus aureus is a potential pathogenic microorganism, were detected at the surface of some of these selected surfaces in the equipment as well as inside the premises. And as you can see from the protective clothing, like glove and gown was sampled. As you can see, Staphylococcus aureus, was detected, as you can see. So, plus the indoor and outdoor air during production and after production was analyzed. So almost except the aspergillus species, the total Arabic bacteria, fungi, the yeast and mold, total coliform, as well as Staphylococcus aureus was detected. So the prevalence of this microorganism was normally predominantly due to poor hygienic condition, as well as poor handling condition. So coming to conclusion, insufficient knowledge or skills in the value chain wrote the economic loss as well as food insecurity issue. So what we need to do in order to modernize the value chain, we have to train the workers around. We have to train them so that they can develop what good practices are. So the lack of good practice is a major problem. And the other issue, strict regulatory in line of the value chain policy and promoting what is good practice, in particular the small scale farmer, is critical so that we can alleviate the challenges along the sesame value chain. So we acknowledge the NUFIC authored to us Tigray sesame oil extraction plant at this Adigrat pharmaceutical industry for allowing at their facility, and lastly Egerton University for hosting this conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abrahet, for that presentation. We want to welcome comments and questions from the audience. Stop sharing, Abrahet.
Oh, all right.
Yes. Okay, if there are no comments or questions, you can reserve them to the end. Let's move to the next presenter, who is Karanja.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I'm Elizabeth Wangoi Karanja. I hope everyone can see my slide properly.
Yes, we are seeing the slide.
Okay. I'm an MSc student taking plant pathology. I'm presenting on determination of aflatoxin levels. I'm presenting on determination of aflatoxin levels in groundnuts, Arachis hypovia L from Kerio Valley. Groundnuts are nutritious cash crop that are highly susceptible to aflatoxin contamination. They are very rich in protein content and oil content. However, they are very susceptible to aflatoxin contamination. Aflatoxins are secondary metabolites that are produced by Aspergillus species, especially Aspergillus flavus and Aspergillus parasiticus. Aflatoxins have raised a global concern due to their adverse health effects on humans and livestock when ingested. They affect the human health by causing cancer, cancer of the liver, stunted growth in children, immune suppression, and they are also teratogenic. Aflatoxins also lead to food insecurity and economic losses, since highly contaminated food cannot be consumed or traded. Most of the groundnuts that we consume, we buy from our local markets, and local markets products are unregulated, hence exposing consumers to aflatoxin consumption. In order to ensure consumption of aflatoxin-free food, it is a vital step to determine aflatoxin levels in the food. So my study aims at determining aflatoxin levels in groundnuts from Kerio Valley, which is the most groundnut producing region in Rift Valley. These are just sample pictures of A, a healthy groundnut, and B, groundnuts that are infected with Aspergillus species. I collected my samples from Kerio Valley, a region that is shared by Baringo County and Elgeyo Marakwet County. Sampling was done twice. During the first sampling, we managed to harvest 15 groundnuts from 15 farms across the study area, and asked the farmers to store a kg until we come back for the next sampling. And we also stored the ones that we collected in the lab. During the second sampling, which happened 10 months later, we collected groundnuts from the farmers we had asked them to store, and we collected other groundnuts from 115 other farmers who had groundnuts in their households. Questionnaires were issued to study farmers' agronomic practices. My samples were divided into two groups. Group 1 contained samples that were collected at harvest, stored in the lab and stored by farmers. And in group 2, had samples that were collected from the 18 farmers, which there was groundnuts that were stored for within 1 month and others that were stored for more than 9 months. On analyzing aflatoxin levels, we analyzed the total aflatoxin levels we grounded 20 grams of groundnuts and then added 100 ml of 70% methanol and then did an ELISA, that is enzyme linked immunosorbent assay, according to manufacturer's instruction, and then recorded the optical density readings. I quantified my data. I analyzed my data using SPCS version 25. Data on aflatoxin levels and agronomic practices was analyzed using descriptive statistics and comparing aflatoxin levels in group 1. ANOVA was used and 2 KHSD test was used to separate the means. To compare aflatoxin means in group 2 samples, an independent t-test was employed. These are the results from the agronomic practices of farmers and their knowledge about aflatoxins. All the farmers recycled their seeds, their groundnut seeds, meaning that there was a carryover of existing pathogen to the next plant generation. Only 27.3% practiced crop rotation, at least 16.3% did mixed cropping, and only 18.2% had soil amendment, that is the use of organic manure. None of them was using fertilizer, and none of them practiced irrigation. Only 9.1% used shelling machine to shell their groundnuts, and 36% of the farmers were drying their groundnuts on mats. The rest were drying their groundnuts on bare ground, and 90.9% were stored their groundnuts in woven polypropylene bags. 81.8% stored their groundnuts in traditional granary, and the rest stored their produce in the house. At least almost all the farmers knew about fungal infection in groundnuts, but only 22% knew about aflatoxins. These are pictures showing how farmers dried their groundnuts on a mat. This one shows the polypropylene bags they use for storage, and you can see also how they heap their groundnuts on ground to dry it. And this one shows the storage facility they use and also how they dry their groundnuts on bare ground. It was amazing to find that despite the poor agronomic practices the farmer practiced, 91% of their groundnuts were within the kept acceptable limits of 10 parts per billion, and only 8.3% exceeded the limits. When analyzing the samples in group 1, we found that there was a statistical significance in samples that were stored by farmers and samples that were stored in the lab. For the samples that were stored in the lab, we noticed that there was low aflatoxin levels compared to at harvest. This could be due to competing pathogen in the kernels that release enzymes that degrade aflatoxin, and the increase in aflatoxin levels in some of the farmers' samples that they had stored could be due to their poor storage and poor agronomic practices. In group 2 samples, we noticed that there was no significant levels between the storage period for the ones that were stored for 1 month and the ones that were stored for more than 10 months. In conclusion, yes, we report that some groundnut samples from Kerio Valley have low aflatoxin levels, but in the long run, this may lead to chronic health effects such as liver cancer, started growth in children. Continued poor agronomic practices may lead to increased aflatoxin levels. So we would advise farmers should be educated on proper pre-harvest and post-harvest practices in order to avoid aflatoxin accumulation in their groundnuts. I would like to acknowledge the National Research Fund for funding my project, Mycotoxin Research Lab for facilitating my research, and also Egerton University for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Karanja, for that informative presentation and also for keeping within the time that you want to present. I want to welcome questions and suggestions.
Elizabeth, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, this is Professor Mbola. My question is about your title. And I just want to know, can your results be applicable to grammars grown elsewhere, apart from Elgeyo Marakwet?
I'm sorry, I can barely hear you.
I'm asking,
Uh-huh.
you have narrowed your research to Elgeyo Marakwet. There are other areas in Kenya that grow grammars like South Nyanza, even Western. So I'm asking, can this results be duplicated in any other county besides Elgeyo Marakwet? Have you heard my question? Can the results be applicable elsewhere apart from Elgeyo Marakwet?
Whether the results can be
applied elsewhere apart from Elgeyo Marakwet.
Okay, from the literature review that I've read, we find that there are different results from different parts of the country. Maybe in some countries you might find that after harvest, all the groundnut samples are within the acceptable limits, but after harvest, majority of the groundnut samples are not within the acceptable limits.
Now I'm asking, suppose the farmers practice the same agronomic practices, the way they plant, they harvest, they dry. What you found out to be happening to the groundnuts in Elgeyo Marakwet happened to groundnuts grown in South Nyanza, for example.
Please, can you read the question kindly, please? I'm really struggling to hear.
Okay, let me try and reframe the question. What Professor Mbola is asking is that, can you be able to apply the results that you have obtained in another county and not Elgeyo Marakwet?
Yes.
So why do you limit yourself in your title to Elgeyo Marakwet? Elgeyo Valley.
Okay, the results, like there's a study that was done in Meru, but they found different results. From results where you find that even despite the poor agronomic practices of the farmers, still a good percentage of the groundnut samples were within the acceptable limits. But in Meru, you find that the farmers had poor agronomic practices and the groundnuts were not within acceptable limits.
So that means that you cannot be able to apply. Sorry.
Yeah, since aflatoxin is sensitive to environment.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Karanja.
Okay.
Any other comments? We want to ask whether the other two presenters are there. Is Alo in the room? We were to have a presentation from Alo. We have another presentation from Okongo. Is Okongo logged in? If those presenters are not logged on, I want to really thank everyone who has participated in this session of food science and technology. I will request that we go back to you do the poll, carry out the poll, and then move to the main session. You just exit the breakout room, but don't exit from the conference login.